The morning Claire quit, it was raining. Not the soft, forgiving kind of rain that makes everything smell clean and new. It was the kind that hammers against windows and floods gutters and makes you feel like the whole world is angry at you. Ryan Calloway stood in his kitchen at 6:45 in the morning, still in yesterday's shirt, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, and listened to Claire tell him she was leaving. "I'm sorry, Ryan, I really am, but I've taken a position in Portland. It's closer to my family and the salary is—" She stopped herself. "I'm just sorry. I tried to give you as much notice as I could. 2 weeks. She was giving him 2 weeks. He nodded. He thanked her. He told her he understood, because he did understand and he just didn't know what he was going to do about it. After Claire left the kitchen, he stood there in the grey morning light and thought about the last 4 years. Emma had been 2 when her mother walked out. Not passed away, not tragically taken, just walked out. Left a note on the counter that said she wasn't built for this life and was gone before Ryan came home from his double shift at the hospital. He had stood in that same kitchen, holding that same kind of cold coffee, reading those words over and over like they might change if he read them enough times. They never changed. Claire had come into their lives 6 months later. Warm, patient, reliable Claire, who sang Emma nursery rhymes and remembered which stuffed animal she needed to fall asleep and always cut her sandwiches into triangles, because squares, according to Emma, tasted different. Claire had been the steady ground beneath their feet while Ryan worked. Brutal hours as an ER physician, and somewhere along the way, Ryan had made the mistake that exhausted single parents always make. He had stopped preparing for the possibility of losing her. Now Emma was 6, and Claire was leaving, and Ryan had no idea how to explain that to his daughter. He didn't have to wait long to find out. Emma came downstairs 20 minutes later in her purple pajamas, her dark hair a nest of tangles, dragging her stuffed elephant Mr. Peanut by one worn ear. She took one look at Claire's red eyes and Ryan's expression, and stopped on the bottom step. "Is something wrong with Mr. Peanut?" she asked. Ryan almost laughed. He crouched down to her level. "No, baby, Mr. Peanut is fine. But Claire has some news." He let Claire tell her. He thought it would be kinder coming from her. He was wrong. Emma listened with the terrifying stillness that 6-year-olds sometimes have, that complete, total absorption. And then her face did something that broke Ryan's heart in a way he hadn't felt since the night. He read that note on the counter. Her chin wobbled, her eyes filled, and she looked at Claire and said very quietly, "But who's going to braid my hair?" Claire cried. Ryan held Emma while she cried. Even Mr. Peanut seemed sad, propped against the kitchen wall with his button eyes staring at nothing. The 2 weeks passed in a blur of backup sitters who cancelled and emergency calls to his mother in Ohio, and one disastrous afternoon with a temp agency babysitter who let Emma eat cereal for dinner and forgot to give her her allergy medication. Ryan was running on 4 hours of sleep and black coffee and the specific desperation of a man who loves his child more than anything and feels like he is failing her in every direction. It was during that second week on a Thursday afternoon that Emma met Mara. Ryan had just come home from a 7-hour shift to find the backup sitter, a college student named Jade, who he had found through a neighborhood app, standing on his front porch with her bag already on her shoulder. She had the expression of someone who had already rehearsed this conversation. "I'm so sorry," Jade said. "My roommate has a situation and I really need to—" "It's fine," Ryan said. He didn't mean it. "I've got it." He didn't have it. He went inside to find Emma in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, talking to someone through the open front window. Not the front door, the window. Ryan walked closer and saw, crouched on the other side of the porch railing, a woman he had never seen before. She was maybe 30, with light brown hair pulled back in a messy knot and paint on her forearm. Pale blue, the color of a clear sky, and she was holding a small, bedraggled tabby cat. "He followed me from the corner," the woman was saying to Emma. "I think he got scared of the rain." "Does he look like he lives around here?" Emma studied the cat with the gravity of a scientist. "He doesn't have a collar. That means he's an adventure cat." An adventure cat, the woman repeated, completely seriously. That's exactly right. I've never heard a better explanation for it. Ryan knocked on the window frame. Both of them looked up. The woman stood. She was tall, easy in her posture, with the kind of face that was pretty without trying to be. And she smiled at him with no self-consciousness at all. "Sorry," she said. "I just moved in next door. Number 44. I found this cat and your daughter was kind enough to consult with me." "Daddy, she needs help," Emma said. "The adventure cat needs a temporary home." "Emma." "His name is Captain." Emma had apparently already named the cat. "I named him." The woman laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and warm. And something shifted in Ryan's chest that he immediately told himself to ignore. "I'm Mara," she said. "Mara Ellis. I really am sorry to bother you. I just didn't know where else to knock." "Ryan," he said, "and it's not a bother." He let her in. He didn't know why. He was exhausted and overwhelmed, and the last thing he needed was a stranger in his house. But he let her in, and Emma immediately attached herself to Mara's side like a small, determined barnacle. Mara sat on the kitchen floor with Emma and the cat, and somehow, within 20 minutes, she had looked up the nearest animal shelter, found a cardboard box to use as a temporary carrier, and managed to give Captain a small bowl of water without getting scratched. Ryan made coffee, real coffee, for the first time in a week. He watched Mara with his daughter and felt the exhaustion in his body like a physical weight. "You're good with her," he said without thinking. Mara glanced up. "She's easy to be good with. She's remarkable."
"She is," Ryan said.
He said it the way parents say things about their children. Simply, completely, without any armor. Emma looked up from the cat and looked at Mara with that unnerving directness that children have. "Do you have any kids?" she asked. Mara's expression shifted, barely, just a small softening around the eyes. "No," she said. "Not yet. Maybe someday. Do you have a husband?" "Emma," Ryan said. "It's okay." Mara smiled. "No, I don't." Emma considered this for a long moment. Then she looked at Ryan. Then she looked back at Mara. "Okay," she said, as if she had arrived at a decision, and went back to petting the cat. Ryan didn't know what that meant. He would find out 3 days later. Mara came back the next morning with a bag of cat food. She had adopted Captain herself. It turned out, because Emma had looked at her when they were leaving the shelter and said, "He already loves you. You have to keep him," and Mara apparently couldn't say no to that. She said she was just dropping off the extra food in case they ever wanted to cat sit. She ended up staying for 2 hours because Emma was having a meltdown about a school project and Ryan had 12 minutes before his shift started, and the look on his face apparently communicated the emergency clearly enough. "Go," Mara said. "I've got this. I'm a freelance illustrator. I work from home. I genuinely have nowhere else to be right now." "You don't have to, Ryan." She looked at him steadily. "Go take care of people. I'll take care of Emma." He went. He told himself it was just this once. It was not just once. Mara started appearing in their mornings, the way good things sometimes appear in desperate lives, quietly, without announcement, as if she had always been there. She helped Emma with the project, which turned out to be a diorama about ecosystems, and Emma's teacher sent home a note saying it was the best in the class. She was there one afternoon when Emma came home crying because a boy at school had said she didn't have a real family because she didn't have a mom. And Mara had sat with her on the porch steps for 40 minutes while Ryan was stuck in traffic. And by the time he got home, Emma had stopped crying and was showing Mara how to braid Mr. Peanut's ear. Ryan started cooking dinner on the nights she stayed late. It was the only thing he could think to do that felt like enough. One evening in early November, about 3 weeks after the adventure cat incident, Ryan was washing dishes while Emma and Mara sat at the kitchen table finishing a drawing. Mara had been teaching Emma watercolors, and the kitchen counter had taken on a permanent faint blue tint. And Emma said, very casually, "Mara, do you want to come to the Thanksgiving thing at my school?" Mara looked at her. "What Thanksgiving thing?" "It's the family dinner. Every family brings something and you eat together. Daddy always brings the bread because he can only make bread." Emma said this with the complete, honesty of a child who has not yet learned to be tactful. He's not very good at cooking other things. Ryan dried his hands on the dish towel and turned around. That's not entirely... It's a little true, Mara said, smiling at him. It's very true, Emma confirmed. Then she looked at Mara with her serious eyes. Will you come? It's for families. She paused, chose her words with the strange, careful precision of a 6-year-old who knows that what she says next matters. You're our family, aren't you? The kitchen went quiet. Mara looked at Emma for a long moment. Ryan watched her face, watched the surprise move through it. And then something else, something softer and more complicated. The expression of a person who has been handed something they didn't know they were waiting for. Yeah, Mara said softly. I think I am. Emma nodded, satisfied, and went back to her painting. Ryan stood at the sink with a dish towel in his hands and his heart doing something complicated and enormous in his chest. He asked her to stay for dinner that night, not because it was convenient, because he wanted her there, because the table felt like the right size when she was at it. And Emma laughed more, and the house sounded different, fuller, like a room with better acoustics. After Emma went to bed, they sat on the porch in the cold with mugs of tea, and Ryan told her the truth about Emma's mother, about Claire, about the long, grinding loneliness of loving a child with everything you have and still feeling like it's not enough, like there are gaps in her life you can't fill with your own 2 hands, no matter how hard you try. Mara listened the way she always listened, fully, without filling the silence with unnecessary words. Then she said, I lost my mom when I was 7, breast cancer. My dad did the same thing you're doing, worked too hard and loved too much and never asked for help, because asking felt like failing. She looked at her tea. Emma's not missing anything, Ryan. She has you. That's not nothing. That's everything. Ryan looked at her in the cold. November dark, and felt something settle in him that had been unsettled for 4 years. Why did you come back? He asked. After that first day, you barely knew us. Mara was quiet for a moment. Because Emma looked at me like I mattered, she said, and I hadn't felt like that in a long time. The Thanksgiving dinner at Emma's school was on a Friday afternoon. They went together, Ryan and Mara and Emma, who wore her best dress and carried the bread Ryan had made, and walked between them, holding both their hands. Her teacher, Ms. Patricia, looked at them as they came through the door and smiled the way people smile when they see something that makes sense. Emma introduced Mara to her friends with complete, unambiguous confidence. This is Mara, she said. She lives next door and she's going to be my mom. Ryan started to say something. Mara put her hand on his arm, lightly, just a touch. He let Emma say it, because Emma was not wrong. She had known it before either of them did. The way children sometimes know things that adults are still too afraid to name. She had looked at a stranger crouched on a porch, in the rain with a lost cat, and recognized something, a shape that fit the empty space in their lives, a warmth that matched the one they had been living without. Ryan asked Mara to dinner, just the 2 of them. His mother flying in to stay with Emma on a Saturday in December. He was nervous in a way he hadn't been nervous in years, standing at her door with his hand raised to knock, feeling 41 and exhausted and terrified, and more hopeful than he had any right to be. She opened the door before he knocked. She was already smiling. Emma texted me, she said, holding up her phone. She said, and I quote, Daddy is nervous. It's embarrassing. Please be nice. Ryan closed his eyes. She has a phone because of emergencies. This was apparently an emergency. He laughed. She laughed. And the nervousness left him like smoke through an open window. They had dinner. They talked for 5 hours. He walked her to her door at midnight, and she looked at him in the yellow porch light. And he thought about all the things that had to go wrong for any of this to go right. Claire leaving, Jade cancelling, the rain, the lost cat. A little girl sitting on the floor, talking to a stranger through a window. And he felt, for the first time in 4 years, like maybe the universe knew what it was doing after all. He kissed her. She kissed him back. Emma found out the next morning and reacted with the deeply satisfied calm of someone who had orchestrated the whole thing. "I knew," she told Mr. Peanut, very quietly, while Ryan made breakfast and Mara sat at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around her coffee mug and the pale winter light coming through the windows and Captain the Adventure Cat asleep on the radiator. "I knew the whole time. And before you go, if this story hit you somewhere deep, if you stayed until the very last word, then you already know what kind of person you are. You believe in love that shows up quietly. You believe in children who see the truth before adults do. You believe that family isn't only the people you're born to, it's the ones who stay. If this story gave you something, even just for a few minutes, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. More stories like this one are waiting for you, and every single one of them was made for people exactly like you. Don't miss what comes next.